We're actually invested in a company that turns CO2 into carbon fiber or jet fuel. There's a lot of steps along the way that takes years and tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And all of this requires people and research and lab equipment and manufacturing equipment. And your typical scientist who works at a university or something, they don't have that money in their bank account, right? Nobody does. And that's where venture capitalists come in. To start at the top, the question a lot of people may be too embarrassed to ask, what is venture capital? People have, I think, kind of a vague idea, but maybe not the exact specifics. So to take it, take that one down. Venture capital is really the practice of investing in early stage companies or ventures, if you will, or startups, who, with the goal of having those companies grow into really big companies. And so the small amount of money you invested in that early startup becomes worth a lot of money, and you make a big profit. So obviously, how is a small company expected to become a big company? Most small businesses fail or never, grow in size as to that level. So the thing that many of the companies do that have in common is that they're leveraging some new technology, right? That allows them to either offer a better product to their customers, offer it at lower cost, or develop some new completely different product that nobody else offers. And so because of that, and because of how often technology is part of this equation, a lot of people kind of think about venture capital synonymously with investing in tech. And for today's purposes, I think that's a completely fine thing to do. We can just kind of assume for now that, venture investing is tech investing, or as I like to think about it, funding the future. So with that as background, we can see, I think a lot of people can understand why somebody would want to invest in a small, great company before it gets big. The most logical question is, well, why would that company want your money, right? Like if you owned a great company that had great technology, you'd probably want to keep that all for yourself if it grew big. The reason is that a lot of these companies doing really interesting innovation require a bunch of money to get from small to big, even before they can kind of make their first sale sometimes. And so they need investors in order to help them kind of do that. Why don't I kind of take an example, which I think would be really good to both crystallize that point and help people see the kind of investments that investors such as myself evaluate every day. So let's take as an example, the one problem you mentioned, climate, that a lot of people are aware of is, the amount of CO2 in the air, right? And so no matter what part of the political spectrum you are on, you probably agree that it would be better if we had less carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Whether you think that global warming is a pressing problem or not, pollution is still not a good thing. We all want to breathe fresher air. And so there's a lot of companies out there, as you know, Nick, that focus on using carbon dioxide, the gas in the air, this pollutant, as a raw material to make some product that we use every day, which then, traps or sequesters this carbon dioxide so it's not in the atmosphere. There's also a lot of companies, focused on substituting raw materials that are currently bad, right? Like companies that require oil to make their product. Plastics are a good example of a product that requires oil. I think we all agree, once again, no matter where we are in the political spectrum, that if we could drill less oil, that would be good for national security concerns, commodity price risks, all sorts of things. And so there are companies looking to replace, those petrochemicals, that oil, with something, that's easier to get. So what if I told you that there was a company that actually took carbon dioxide in the air and used it to make plastic bottles, which are currently made out of oil? So you're solving two problems. You're getting rid of carbon dioxide, and you're lowering the amount of oil that needs to be drilled for. If you're not somebody who lives with frontier tech and venture every day, you'd probably say, right, this is sorcery. This is
witchcraft.
Possible. Exactly. It just sounds too good to be true. But the truth is, there's a lot of companies doing this sort of thing who have proven something out, at least at the lab scale. And we're actually invested in a company, for instance, that, turns plastic into carbon fiber and turns CO2 into carbon fiber or jet fuel. So these are things that are actually happening now. So imagine, if you will, a company where a scientist, is in a lab, and she figures out a way to take carbon dioxide and turn it into plastic. She makes a square inch by square inch of plastic fully out of carbon dioxide and a few other little feedstocks. We would all say, wow, that's amazing. She has done an incredible thing for society, and that's wonderful. And that's absolutely true. The issue that this scientist faces, and many other people starting, these types of companies face, is it costs a lot of money to get from that 1 square inch of plastic to making tens of $1,000s of plastic bottles for people to drink their water. And, that's a whole bunch of things. We can all think of some of them, right? First of all right, great. You made 1 square inch of plastic. Now we have to make many, many feet and yards and miles of it. Does that process that you did, does that hold up for that scale? Does this plastic have the type of characteristics that you would need in a plastic bottle? It can bend. It can resist certain temperatures. It's not toxic. Can you then, once you figure that out, can you then figure out how to scale it and make it at a cost that's affordable? Nobody's going to buy a plastic bottle if it costs $10,000. Nobody's going to buy that water, no matter how good the bottle is for the environment. And then you have to win over those bottle manufacturers and ultimate customers on your product, right? So there's a lot of steps along the way that takes years and tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And all of this requires people and research and lab equipment and manufacturing equipment all to do. And your typical scientist who works at a university or something, they don't have that money in their bank account, right? Nobody does, pretty much. And so what they do is they try to figure out ways to raise money. Once again, these companies are pre-revenue, right? You can't sell this square inch of plastic to anybody for any amount. So before you have that ability to sell that product, you need a whole lot of money. Mm-hmm. And that's where venture capitalists come in, right? Is they say, okay, I see this promising technology you invented. I want to give you some money in exchange for your company. And, we'll reach some sort of agreement of how much I should get. And then as that company grows, I'll benefit from it.